hand if you have someone in your family who has Down syndrome. Okay, now raise your hand if you have ever encountered or talked to somebody who has Down syndrome. If you raised your hand to either of those, then you know that someone with Down syndrome lives a very different life than we do. But that means nothing. Someone with Down syndrome is human just like we are and as important as anybody else. The general purpose of my speech is to inform you. I am going to inform you of what Down syndrome is, what effects it has on somebody who is diagnosed with it, and the 3 different types of this genetic disorder. Everyone misunderstands Down syndrome just like they misunderstand the people who are affected by it. Down syndrome is a serious condition that severely complicates the lives of those who are affected by it. While on this subject, a certain story comes to mind that will stick with me forever because it was such a special moment. My high school volleyball coach had a granddaughter with Down syndrome that came to practice with her every day. Her name was Emma, and she was the cutest and sweetest little girl ever. She was 3 years old at the time, so therefore she was in her learning stages, but unfortunately she had delayed learning skills. Emma's speech was not very good, so I made it my goal at the beginning of the season to have improved Emma's speech by the end of the season. So, every day I spent 45 minutes teaching Emma new words and helping her improve her speech. The learning process for Emma and teaching process for me was very difficult because she had a harder time learning than regular people do. But at the end of the season, Emma was able to say 25 more words than she could at the beginning of the season. I never realized the life-changing effects of Down syndrome until I had the wonderful opportunity to assist Emma firsthand. To start off, you may be wondering, what is Down syndrome exactly? According to the National Down Syndrome Society, Down syndrome takes place when one person has a full or partial another copy of chromosome 21. Down syndrome is considered to be the most common genetic condition in the United States. The National Down Syndrome Society recorded that in every 691 babies born, 1 ends up with Down syndrome. An estimated 400,000 Americans are diagnosed with Down syndrome, and around 6,000 babies are born each year and have Down syndrome. Down syndrome was first discovered by John Langdon Down in the 19th century when he published the first accurate description of someone with Down syndrome. In 2000, a team of scientists accomplished identifying each of the approximately 329 genes on chromosome number 21, which allowed further advances in research for Down syndrome. Second, what are the effects of Down syndrome? Mainly, Down syndrome alters the process of the development and growing of a person. The most common and noticeable characteristics seen with people affected by this condition are low muscle tone, small stature, an upward slant to the eyes, a single deep crease across the center of the palm, bulging eyes, oddly shaped ears, and flat facial features. Down syndrome also comes with medical complications, which could be congenital heart defects, hearing loss, poor vision, sleep apnea, dementia, hypothyroidism, obesity, and Alzheimer's later in life. In few cases of Down syndrome, a person arouses some form of mental disability such as impulsive behavior, poor judgment, short attention span, and slow learning capabilities. Although these characteristics are given, does not mean that every person with Down syndrome portrays them. Each person is unique and may or may not present these characteristics. Some are more critical than others if they do though. The National Down Syndrome Society has recognized that advancement of certain things has resulted in individuals living longer lifespans than they did before. In 1910, it was recorded that the average lifespan of an individual that had Down syndrome was 9 years. When antibiotics were discovered, the lifespan increased to 19 or 20 years. Now, with way further advancements in medicine, technology, and treatment, approximately 80% of adults with Down syndrome live to be 60 years old, and some may live longer. The life of an individual with this disease differs immensely from those who don't have it. Lastly, what are the different types of Down syndrome? The Helpline editorial team has recorded that there are 3 different types. 1, trisomy 21, 2, mosaicism, and 3, translocation. Trisomy 21. MD Lynn Leshin describes trisomy 21 to be the most common form of Down syndrome, caused by an extra copy of chromosome 21. According to MD Lucille Packard from Stanford Children's Hospital, trisomy 21 is the only form of Down syndrome that can be inherited from the parents. Mosaicism. The National Down Syndrome Society defines mosaicism as when there is a mixture of 2 cells, some containing 46 chromosomes and some containing 47. The effects of mosaicism are similar or could be the same as Down syndrome, they're just less visible. Some effects are straight, fine hair, flat nasal bridge, short fingers and toes, and unusually dry skin. Mosaicism is said to be the least common form of Down syndrome and only accounts for about 1% of Down syndrome cases. Translocation. Translocation occurs when the total number of chromosomes in the cell remains 46. However, an additional full or partial copy of chromosome 21 attaches to another chromosome, usually number 14. Translocation makes up about 4% of the Down syndrome cases. Translocation effects do not have the same ones as mosaicism or trisomy 21. The only effect is a female may have difficulties getting pregnant if she has translocation. People misunderstand Down syndrome just like they misunderstand the people who are affected by it. From personal experience, people with Down syndrome are the happiest people ever. They are the sweetest and most down-to-earth individuals you could ever meet. If you get the chance to encounter or help someone with this condition, don't pass it up. It's such a special occurrence, inspiration, and learning experience. They shouldn't be treated differently just because they have Down syndrome. They are just like us and should be treated the same. And this is a picture of a child with Down syndrome. This is trisomy 21.